Okay, good morning, everyone. You're all very welcome to the November Public Service Innovation Network event. This month's event is all you need to know about the Public Service Innovation Fund for 2023, which was recently launched as part of Public Service Innovation Week in 2022. So ahead of the deadline on December 16th, Friday, we get that right this time, Friday 16th of December, we've decided to dedicate the November event to everything you need to know for your application, deadline, that are taking place to the fund in 2023. So the fund is focused on the key ethos of transferability, scalability, and collaboration. Of
Catch that.
Chris Kiernan, bear with folks. Sorry.
Here's what I found.
This is why Siri likes to play up.
I'm here.
Siri decided to be an extra panelist today, so bear with. So Siri won't be joining us hopefully for the rest of the conversation. But anyway, so we have Chris Kiernan, the Public Service Innovation Fund and Strategy Manager. He's going to be telling us a little bit about what the fund is going to look like in 2023 with the new categories of green sustainable initiatives, citizen support innovation, digital transformation, and innovative design of solutions. The area of IP, intellectual property, has also kind of been a key area of interest for former recipients. So we are delighted to welcome Cleary from the Intellectual Property Office of Ireland to kind of give us a little bit of insights and kind of guide people on ahead of their projects and applications for 2023. Following that, we have two former multiple fund recipients kind of to share their own experiences and give a little bit of kind of oversight to what their projects looks like. But crucially, they're going to offer their insights, their experience, and this is a really valuable time for anyone who's on the call today, that this is an opportunity to interact and ask questions that maybe myself and Chris couldn't even respond to in many aspects too, because their experience differs from ours as well as being fund administrators and fund recipients as well. So we have Dr. Chris Soraghan from the St. James Hospital, who's going to tell us about his design space for public healthcare innovation and lean healthcare trolley design projects, as well as Ruth Penney from the Court Service, whose projects include creating child distraction space in the Court Service, Jam Card Programme, and 360 virtual What to Expect tour of the courts. So with that, we are going to hand over to Cleary, who's going to give us a little bit of detail on IP. And also just ahead of kind of handing over, I just want to point out that you may submit questions or comments via the Q&A function. If that doesn't come up as default, guys, there's a little 3-button ellipsis on the very bottom of your screen, and there you should be able to activate the Q&A, which you're welcome to submit on anything you like, and we'll try and get around to it towards the end of the conversation. So with that, we're going to hand over to Caitlin now, give you presenter rights, and thanks very much, Caitlin.
Brilliant, thank you so much. I'm just going to share my screen there, and I'm going to do the usual thing. Can everybody see my screen? Brilliant. Perfect. So thank you, everybody, and thank you for inviting me on to speak this morning. As you know, I'm from the Intellectual Property Office of Ireland, and we are the official government body responsible for the registration and the maintenance of intellectual property rights in Ireland. So before I begin, I suppose that the important thing for me to clarify is that the intellectual property process is the same, whether an applicant is a private entity or a public body. So the information I'm about to give you today will actually apply across both of the sectors. So I suppose what intellectual property is, it's the umbrella term for various intellectual property rights. So you've got brands, which would be covered by trademarks. You've got inventions, which would be covered by patent protection. The appearance or ornamentation of a product, which would be protected by design protection, and literary and artistic works, which is covered by copyright. The important thing to know about intellectual property is sometimes it can actually be more valuable than your organization's physical assets. Intellectual property rights, they can be licensed, they can be assigned, and they can actually be used as capital with banks. When thinking about intellectual property, I suppose the important thing to know is that it's not actually compulsory to protect your intellectual property. It's very much a decision that should be made as part of your organization's business strategy. However, it's important to note that intellectual property protection will ensure that others cannot copy and make profit from your branding, and it will also ensure that others do not damage the reputation of your organization by using your branding while actually providing a somewhat inferior service. So it's also important to know that if you don't intend to protect your own intellectual property, it's important to carry out a search to ensure that you're not seeking protection over maybe somebody else's already protected intellectual property right or branding that they're using in the course of their own business. The last thing to note before we get started on the IP rights themselves, our intellectual property rights are actually territorial. So it means, for example, if you apply for a trademark in Ireland and you get Irish trademark protection, that protection is only valid in the Republic of Ireland. And if you do want protection further afield, you'll need to go to other organisations to do so. So getting straight into trademarks here, you'll see we have a definition. It's any sign capable of being represented on the register, which is capable of distinguishing the goods and services of one undertaking from those of other undertakings. So trademarks, we tend to say they're for everyone because they're applicable to every business, as even just the basic organisation or department name can be protected by a trademark once it contains some unique elements. Protection, as we said, will only be given in relation to certain goods and services that the mark will be in association with. So you'll see here we have some of the public sector trademarks that are currently registered. And as an example of the goods and services scenario that I've just mentioned, Aer Lingus here wouldn't be able to protect their trademark under, say, broadcasting services, the same as RTE wouldn't be able to protect their trademark under aviation services. A lot of people, when they see the TM symbol, think that that actually means that a logo or a word is trademark protected. However, that doesn't have protection under Irish trademark law. It's only when you see that R in a circle that indicates that it is a registered trademark and it is a protected IP right in the jurisdiction in which protection has been sought. So trademarks, once registered, can actually be kept alive indefinitely and will fall due for renewal every 10 years. Trademarks, they must be distinctive, but they cannot be too general. So names can coexist once they are for very different categories of goods and services. So if you think of the name Oasis, they used to be, or are they still a band? They were a clothes shop, and they're actually a soft drink. And they can coexist happily in the same market because they're protected for such different goods and services. It's not just names and logos that can be protected as trademarks either. As you can see here, you've got colour marks, you've got pattern marks, you've got positional marks. So you'll see our Levi jeans here. That little red tag on the back of a pocket on a pair of jeans, no other company can actually produce a pair of jeans with that tag in the exact same place as the pocket because Levi have protection over that. More recently, we've also seen the likes of hologram marks, sound marks, and 3D trademarks. So if you do decide that you do want to look into registering a trademark and you think that you've met all of the criteria that I've just mentioned, the first step then is actually to carry out a search. And the good news is that searching is free and you can search national or community databases to see if your trademark name already exists. We would recommend using this TM view. As you can see here, it contains trademark data from over 50 countries with 51 million trademarks. So if you do a search on this database, there's a very good chance that if you don't get a result for your selected term, that you can go ahead and look to apply for a trademark. All of the search databases, all of the links, they're all available on the IPOI website. You'll see here that we have statutory trademark fees. Now, unfortunately, I just don't have time to cover the European ones, but if we look at the registration fees in Ireland, trademarks are actually less expensive than some people might think. If you do look to apply for a trademark in Ireland, it'll cost you a €70 application fee, and at the end of the examination process, it'll cost a total of €177 to register it. As I said, you can actually keep your trademark alive indefinitely as long as you pay renewal fees on a 10-year basis. The good news is with trademarks, as with all of the other IP rights, you're not entered into a contract. If at any point you decide that it's not worth keeping the right alive, you can just stop paying the renewal fees and the right will lapse. So if we move on to industrial designs then, so design protection is useful for products where there's a unique element relating to the appearance only. So there's no technical function in relation to a design application. And designs, it can relate to lines, colours, textures, contours. It's the ornamentation or the materials of a product. And design protection is applicable to nearly everything and anything. It can be applicable to jewellery, furniture, clothing. You can see here our charming shoe with the yellow piece highlighted. It's actually that yellow part of the shoe that has design protection. So it can be all or some of a product that you can seek design protection over. In order to be registered as a design, a product must be new, so it must be in the public domain for no more than 12 months before you actually apply with our office, and it must have individual character. Now, this is a bit of a mouthful, but it means that the overall impression produced by a design on an informed user differs from the overall impression produced on such a user by any earlier design which has been made available to the public. So just to simplify that, it literally means that your design cannot already look like one that's on the market. So if you feel that you have a design which is new, so it hasn't been on the market for more than 12 months, and there isn't one on the market like it, you can maybe look to start searching to see if there are any further afield. And again, like with trademarks, there was TM View, which we would recommend using. With designs, we would recommend using Design View. Again, you can find the links on our website and you can search the national and the community databases. Our staff will obviously be more than happy to help if anybody wants to call into the office in Kilkenny or if they want to actually call the office on the phone. If you have any trouble with the design searching, feel free and one of our staff would be more than happy to help you. The difference with designs and trademarks is that the good news is there's less fees to pay. The application fee is €70, and at the end of the examination process, the applicant will actually just receive a registration certificate in the post to let them know that they now have a registered design right. The difference with designs as well is they don't live on indefinitely. They do have an expiry date after a period of 25 years if renewal fees are paid every 5-year period. So moving on swiftly to the next of our IP rights, and we're on to patents. So you'll see here we have a definition of a patent as a government grant of the exclusive right to make, use or sell an invention, usually for a limited period. So patents will come into play if you've come up with a product or a technical process and you want to seek protection over it. Different from designs that we've just discussed, a patent actually protects the technical function rather than the form or the look of a product. So in order for something to be patentable, it must be new or novel. So this means it cannot be available anywhere in the world before the date of filing. So even if you're just looking to file in Ireland, you need to make sure that the patent hasn't been protected anywhere else in the world. It's very important that patentable products are not disclosed. So if you've disclosed your product to the public before you've applied, patentability will actually be lost and we won't be able to accept your application. So you'll see here there's inventive step mentioned as well, and you may be eligible for patent protection if you're improving upon an existing product. So this would be enhancing maybe the ability of the product or manipulating the product to perform different functions. What's important here to note, though, is your protection will actually only be over the inventive step or the change that you've made, and it won't be over the product as a whole. So finally, we've got industrial applicability. So your application, your invention, or your product, it must solve a problem. So there's no point in inventing something with no use or practicality, such as this three-legged pair of tights. So as with the other IP rights, and even more importantly with patents, we cannot express the importance of carrying out a novelty search. So with your trademarks and designs, you had TM View and Design View. With patents, we have a database called ESPASnet. So this contains patent data, as I say, worldwide. And what you would need to do is to do a search using keywords. We recommend about 3 or 4 in the first instance that would be related to your application. The chances are you're going to get a variety of search results back, but nobody knows your application better than yourself, and you'll be able to disregard a lot of it in the first instance. If you do see something that looks similar to your application, you will need to go through it with a fine-tooth comb to make sure that there aren't too many similarities. Simply searching Google in relation to patents, trademarks or designs isn't actually good enough as having done a search for novelty. You need to use these databases. Patents, they're especially unique in that they could already be on a ESPASnet, they could already be published, but for some reason maybe the product never found its way to market and you'll never find it on a Google search engine. We also say that unfortunately, just due to the nature of patents, they can be quite complicated, and many people do actually decide to hire the service of a legal professional in the area. So we do have a list of registered patent agents on our website, should anybody actually want to go ahead and employ their services. We do, however, realise that we do want to help people to apply in their own right, and we have a number of services available on our website to do so. So we've got a patent specification guide, which is downloadable. We also have patent e-filing, which means that for every step of the way, there's information buttons, it's very user intuitive, and you actually can't get to the point of filing an application until you have a complete application in the right format. We also have a patent specification template tool, which was developed here with our patent e-filing project back in 2017, I think. And it's fantastic. It just advises you exactly the way that your application should be formatted under Irish law before you actually do go ahead and file with us. Thinking ahead to some of the queries that we might get later on is patents for software and apps. Knowing the amount of innovation that's going on in the public sector, I'd say there's a lot of software and app innovation going on. Unfortunately, at the moment, software and patents or software and applications aren't currently patentable. They're actually protected under copyright protection. But with everything, there's a but. So if your software, if your app has a technical function, so say if your app was required to maybe move a piece of machinery, then there may be a patentable element in it. And what we would advise doing is putting a quick specification together to explain how it works and to send it into our office, into our information centre where I would receive it here. And I would speak to a patent examiner on your behalf. We'll see if there's an element of patentability in it, and then we'd be able to advise you on whether to file a patent or not. But the good news is, regardless of whether there's patent protection on it, there will always be copyright protection on it for you under Irish law. The patent fees, these always, surprise people. They are far less expensive than you might think. So you'll see here, at the end of a 10-year period for a short-term patent, the total amount of fees you will have paid would be €659. That's your application fee, your grant fees, and all of your renewal fees. The long term, they're obviously a little bit more expensive. They're just over the €5,000 mark. And as you get into the later years of renewal, your renewal fees do get more expensive. But as with the other intellectual property rights, you're actually not in a contract. So maybe in year 13, you think, look, the patent is no longer profitable. It's not working for us anymore. You can stop paying the renewal fees. You know that there won't be any consequences to it. And finally, on our whistle-stop tour of all things IP, we've got copyright. So you'll see we have quite a lengthy definition of what copyright is, and it's the intellectual property right that's given to authors or creators of literary or artistic works. And you can see it encompasses everything from music to paintings, advertisements, and technical drawings. Copyright is basically the right that the author has to say what people can and can't do with their works. The thing that we find that confuses a lot of people is copyright doesn't relate to an idea itself. It only relates to the expression of an idea. So as an example, if you decide to go home this evening and set up a website based on nutrition, and you say to your friend, you're setting up a website on nutrition, and the next morning they've set up the same website, they haven't actually infringed on your copyright in any way because they've just used the idea. But if they go onto your website and they copy all or some of the content, that's when the copyright infringement will kick in. Now, you'll be pleased to know, with copyright, there's no registers to check and there's no searching to be done. There's no registration system in Ireland, so it's an automatic right. So as soon as you create a work, take a photograph, write something down, there's actually copyright protection on it. But because there's no registers, what we would advise you to do is to be very careful that you keep a record of a date and time of creation. And this is just in case you do later need to rely on it on any potential infringement proceedings. The last thing that you can do in relation to copyright is actually use disclaimers on your work. So you'll see that we have the C in IPOI in 2022 on all our slides. Again, this doesn't add, any increased protection to your work, but it can act as a deterrent maybe if somebody is thinking of using your work without your permission. So as I said, it's a very whistle-stop tour of all of the different IP rights. And we use the Coke bottle as a great example of how it's an everyday product that you see in the shops. You see it all the time. You see advertisements on the TV. And it actually encompasses all of the IP rights. So you've got your trademarks and your logo. You've got your patents in the bottle manufacturing. You've got copyright in the label. You've got designs in the overall shape and the ornamentation of the bottle. And I know I didn't touch on trade secrets, but Coca-Cola is probably, one of the world's best known trade secrets. And if you think they would have made a business decision themselves back in 1892 not to actually patent the formula, and nobody's actually been able to recreate the formula to this date. So it was a pretty sound business decision of them at the time. The next slide here, this is just a snapshot of the homepage of our website. So you'll see all of the rights that I've just discussed are available across the middle of the screen. If you want any further detail on any of them, there's comprehensive information on all of the different rights. I mentioned searching a lot. That box in the middle with the search here, that's actually got links to all of the different databases for all of the different IP rights and your online services. The good news is for any of the IP rights that I've discussed, so your patents, your trademarks and your designs, you can apply online 24/7. And that's basically it from me this morning. As I say, it's a very whistle-stop tour. You've got our website details there. You've got our IP info at ipoi.gov.ie. That's our information centre. It's manned every day. If there's any queries you want to send in, via email, please feel free. Other than that, we're a public office. We're in Kilkenny. We're more than happy to see people between the hours of 9:30 and 4. Thank you very much.
Thank you very, very much for that, Caitlin. I think kind of shows just how nuanced, I suppose, the area of IP is, and there's a lot to consider in it. So it's really, really valuable that we kind of get it in at this stage, kind of ahead of the 2023 funding cycle. So thank you very much for that. We have a couple of questions. I might just ask you one question that came in, Caitlin, if that's okay, what's fresh in your head. So as a civil servant, if I patent an invention, who might hold the patent? Would it be the Irish government or the department? And also, how many patents does the government hold at the moment, if you happen to know that?
Was that trade secret?
I should have done my research on how many patents the government happens to hold. But more certainly, I can have a look and I can get back to whoever was asking the question. I don't know is the answer to that. In relation to if you've invented something or if you have something patentable while under the employ of the government, it would very much be something that you would need to sit down with and actually have a look as part of your contract. We do find that if you are, a lot of patents applications that we receive, if somebody is working, under a certain company and they invent something while under the employ of that company, the company is actually the applicant, but the person who has invented it is named as an inventor on the patent. So I'm not sure, but my gut instinct would say that if you do invent something while working in the public sector, that it may be public sector property, but you will be named as an inventor on the application.
That's great. Thank you very much for that. That's really, really valuable. Thank you very much for your time, Caitlin. Very grateful. Now, next we're going to move over to Public Service Innovation Fund and Strategy Manager, Mr. Chris Kiernan, who's going to give us a whistle-stop tour of the Public Service Innovation Fund 2023. So, Chris, when you're ready.
Can't do it up slides.
No, you can't. It's loading.
So yeah, just to reiterate, we were successfully launched the fund during Innovation Week on the 26th of October. Owen was our fabulous MC in the day and showcased some of the key themes that the fund actually looks for in terms of innovation across the public sector, and that primarily is down to what is the impact of the solution, what evidence is based, what are the outcomes, what's the scalability, what's the transferability across other sectors, and then looking at what the project or procurement plan is required to bring that idea into reality. And basically what we're going to cover off is a whistle stop of what we're looking for as part of the 2023 launch. The slides are still loading.
Almost there, about 95%. There we go.
So here we are.
Yeah, perfect. Going to use, yeah.
So the fund is an initiative that really comes out of our inaugural strategy on innovation, making innovation real. And the fund tries to capture all four key priorities. it's citizen-centric. It develops or tries to develop a culture of innovation across the public sector by equipping staff with the resources to innovate. It's scaling up ideas, developing them or further developing an idea and bringing it forward into something else. It's capturing insights and knowledge and lessons learned from other iterations of the concept or what other departments or public sector bodies are doing. And basically, it's the transforming how you do your service delivery as a public servant to the citizens or the general public that you serve. So again, as I said, it's one of our key initiatives. So again, we've had other initiatives such as the Innovation Declaration, we have our strategy, we have our networks, we have other challenges, we have our forums, and we have something like the Innovation Scorecard. So again, it's one of those initiatives that our public service brings to public sector bodies. It was launched in 2019, so if anyone's new and isn't aware, it was launched in 2019 and it's now in its fourth iteration, and we're just about to finish. So two of our speakers are in the process of finishing their final reports. And again, we've launched for the fifth iteration. So again, it's designed to fund innovative projects or stages of a project within public sector bodies or enhance previously funded projects to complete their next phase of the project lifecycle. Since 2019 to 2021, we've successfully funded 73 projects, and we have 17 currently finishing their fund cycle. So in essence, we've actually provided 2.8 million in strategic investment to projects that are in the areas of health and well-being, digital transformation, green and sustainability, citizen support, and the likes of remote connectivity, and applying emerging technology to enhance their service delivery. So again, we do have a dedicated page, which we'll talk about further. But again, just to reiterate some of the aspects of the call for funding. And as Minister Oisin Smith quite pointed out, it's giving that startup, it's giving that resource to get you up and running. Marianne Cassie, who is the Assistant Secretary General that looks after transformation delivery, who was a previous recipient, says it gives that space and reassurance to be able to get an idea up off the ground and support a culture within your organization in terms of, we have this investment, we have the people, we merge them together and we develop the solution. And you can see in the last picture, 4 of our previous recipients, and they all talk about their different journeys, how it affected them differently, whether it was applying robotic process automation to an administration burden, developing new frameworks and new process to help people with previous convictions enter higher education, utilising digital transformation to digitise how the local authorities engage their citizens and making their life easier when they're looking for planning applications or engagement. And then finally, how we can actually maximise our data that we have, especially in increasing the number of women or girls going into politics, and how they can harness that data to look for trends and patterns and maybe develop resources or strategies to focus on improving the number of girls and women entering politics. So again, there's some of the key insights that we got on that day. So again, we have a dedicated funding page, which you can see there, the big image, which is our guidelines. So the guidelines are set for 2023. And if you want to apply, big green button there, you can see there, apply. There is a digital application. However, we have included a Word documentation. I think Ruth will cover that slightly about how they do business when they're applying for funding. But there's a Word document that you can download and you can use it as a kind of a test before you upload your information into the online application. And one thing we have included, and we listened to previous applicants, was we have new online features that allows you to upload documents as well. So again, if you want to add some presentations, or you want to add some videos, you want to add some images to your application and kind of give that application a bit more of a story, we now have that functionality. However, I would always say, if the functionality doesn't work in the day, please email us directly and we will support you in any way possible. So the slides bit there, but look, what I will talk about is what we look for, demonstrating new ways of working to help deliver your organization innovative strategic outcomes. Add value, implement approach ideas that are transferable or help create learnings to other public servants. We definitely want to see more cross-organizational or cross-silo working. So we want to see that collaboration. We want to see multiple organizations come together. We don't want to see a duplication of effort. There's fantastic innovation across the public sector, we want to do is we want to try and harness people and bring them together. So again, if you have an idea and you want to say, is there anyone else looking at this? Email us, chris.kieran@pair.gov.ie or innovation@pair.gov. Is there anyone working in this area? We will definitely try and connect you. And we want evidence. We want you to back your project application with evidence, insights, or data. And what that allows you to do is, and we'll talk about it further, is what impact. So what is the impact of your solution? What will this do in terms of changing, innovative for the better, whether it's service delivery, etc. We said we want to enhance previously funded projects or complete another phase. So Dr. Chris Soraghan is going to talk about that in his piece. And again, are they diverse and promote digital transformation, citizen-centric, green and sustainable initiatives that help reduce Ireland's carbon footprint, or innovative design of services. So during Innovation Week on the Friday, we launched the service design and government. So again, you're looking at design thinking on how to innovate service delivery, product delivery, and again, the key output of that part of it, if you're applying for that category, you need to explain how you're going to apply service design or design thinking or diamond, double diamond, or one of those kind of initiatives, which is, I can't really see in the bottom of my screen, but they will be there and they are in the guidelines. You need to demonstrate how that's coming across in your application as well. So a lot of people probably aren't aware that they actually do it. A lot of the applications, a lot of projects we've worked with actually apply it. But again, now we want you to really kind of implement this as how you're going to bring the solution. So yes, your solution may provide a way of improving service delivery, but is it the whole process being considered? I know Chris will talk about that in his one, where they actually look at the whole process. Is there ways in the process that can actually be more efficiently developed to ensure that overall the service delivery is further enhanced? So again, if you're unaware, we will have a link on service design concept on our website. We will share that after as well, that link in terms of giving you more information. So again, if you're new to that area, don't worry, there will be additional information. And in the guidelines, there is a definition of what that category means. What's scored in your application? Value, outcomes, and user impact. You need to understand that at the start. Is it going to be reduction in operational costs? Is it going to be better service delivery to the citizens you serve? Is it going to reduce the time it takes to do something? Is it going to increase productivity? So I know Kathleen talked about novelty, and novelty was a key component that we talked about earlier in the previous iteration. But we're looking at originality. So again, originality to your organization and how you do business. Is it the solution original? Is the process original? And again, we look for scalability, transferability, and lessons learned. Collaboration is key. So again, we do encourage that multiple collaboration. Again, it could be in any form. I mentioned about evidence, and one thing I will talk about is having a clear understanding of not just your procurement plan or how that will work. And I know the two guys they'll know the pain points in that. But when you're sitting down, and I'll talk about how you pan out if you start the funding cycle in March and you finish in November. When do you see the procurement concept of any of your solution? And again, the guys will talk about that as well. And just to kind of and hopefully they'll say, you can see if we start the fund cycle in March, I've highlighted in green. Normally there's a lot of momentum starting at that point. However, a number of project teams have experienced the issues with public procurement, and what actually happens is that green mark goes into June, July, and August. And everyone knows August is usually a massive leave period. So again, the project will slow down. And then there's a big rush in September, October, November to complete. So what we would definitely advise is when you're looking at the application process, to also consider, can I achieve as much as possible in a quick sprint in March, April, and May? And start your planning process really there. And I don't want to go too much into public procurement, but what you really need to know is, and someone actually, when they submitted their final report, was they underestimated the volume of information that suppliers will actually give to them if they're going out to the likes of an RFT or if they're doing a request for quotation. They underestimate, and not underestimate, they didn't expect it. And that's great, because again, that's a lesson we can share with you. That sometimes, especially when you're coming to app design or developing a new technical solution, the supplier may give you a lot of information in terms of how they can actually provide that. So what we definitely encourage is, when you're sitting down, can you achieve a lot of the project in terms of procurement or getting work done in March, April, May. When normally the fund cycle starts, we'll try and get it into February, but for the guys this year, it started in March and it'll end in November. And that gives you a little bit more breathing space in June, July, and August, which is usually a leave period. And again, or something that they probably agree is you get bombarded with additional work that was unforeseen that year, and you get loads of new tasks and that kind of stuff that you have to do. And again, try and not have that big rush, because again, if you can get something built in the summer, you can test it, you can get statistics or data or information on it or how it's being used. And again, that can further enhance the evidence captured from your solution. So I'm sure the two guys can definitely back me up on that fund cycle. In terms of how it's scored, again, this is in the fund guidelines. For each of the categories I mentioned, there's 5 points awarded. Okay, so there's 3 stages of the evaluation. First, just checking eligibility. 2, there's an evaluation panel which will evaluate in each of the categories, and then a short list will then be pushed forward to a senior evaluation panel made up of senior experts across the public sector and academia. So again, this is what we're looking for in terms of the key criteria for your application, and these are the marks that are awarded. Projects we support to date: robotic process automation, AI, emerging tech, open data, remote sensors, the application of military gaming or virtual reality. In the education sector, we just mentioned there, telehealth, mHealth, heritage, green and sustainability, analytics, and medical device technology. So again, I know Chris will talk about a little bit like that in his one. But again, we have Ruth here who looked at the application of virtual reality technology to better enhance their service delivery to the citizens they serve. What's next? As Owen mentioned, Friday 16th of December, the deadline. As I said, we have a new Word version available via the OPS fund page. Make sure when you open up the guidelines, confirm that you're eligible, or confirm that you'll be able to complete the project within the timelines as well. A new part for stage 2. If you get through to the last stage, we will give you an opportunity to resubmit a 500-word summary on any changes to your application. So again, if you submitted your application in December, things can actually change within a very, very short period of time. So again, we're giving you that scope to add a little bit more content. If you're unsure, a bit what like Kathleen said, reach out to us, okay? If you're looking for those potential partnerships. And again, we definitely would say encourage you to look out as well. And again, please apply. Multiple entries for your organization. There's no cap, okay? And we wish you the best of luck. So that's it.
Thanks very much for that, Chris. Yeah, look, the fund is it's both responsive and iterative. Look, the fund kind of changes year on year, and it responds to where kind of government policy is, and kind of particularly we're kind of going into service design. So that's kind of a key component of the fund in 2023. And also it is quite iterative in that we listen to the feedback we get from applicants year on year, and we try to make it a more accessible, easier way of kind of applying for the funds, whether it is just a Word doc, whether it is having these sessions, anything we can do to make it easier, we will do. So please, again, as Chris was saying, get in touch with us if there's something you're confused about, so that we can improve it for future iterations. So not to delay any further, we're going to hand over now to Dr. Soraghan. Chris Soraghan is going to tell us a little bit about his project at St. James's Hospital, and kind of give us a little bit of insights to how he went about both his successful applications for the fund. So yeah, Chris, take it away when you're ready.
Very much. Can you hear me okay?
Yeah, perfect.
Yep, very good. Hi everyone, so my name is Chris Soraghan. I'm a clinical engineer at St. James's Hospital in Dublin, also based in the Design Innovation Lab here. So the 2 different funds that we're invited to speak about. So in 2021, we were essentially tasked ourselves with creating a co-design space in St. James's. So to build on that culture of innovation that's St. James's, and to look at developing staff ideas to see if there can be solutions got from them, from the challenges they see every day in working with patients. And in 2022, the fund was essentially to look at developing 2 of the designs that we had been looking at, but to develop them up to a stage where they could be implemented and put in place. So just to give some background to where I am, say in the public service. So I'm based in the medical physics and bioengineering department in the hospital, and essentially we are the scientists and engineers and administrators that look after and manage and maintain the medical equipment in hospitals. So one of the devices among others that I manage are the phototherapy devices. So some of the day-to-day work is managing these machines, making sure that they're safe to use and that they're accurate and that the dose that patients are getting from these machines is correct. Another part of the work then is this design innovation lab, which is where a lot of the innovation overlap comes in. And the design innovation lab kind of formally opened in November 2021 on foot of the funding from the Department of Public Expenditure Reform. And that was vital in order for us to be able to scale up what we were able to build on site. And you'll see some examples of that. So we kind of do a crossover between the engineering technical aspect that we have ourselves and the interaction that we have with our clinical colleagues, which we do on a day-to-day basis. But what we started to look at, and it's, as you can see, it started to permeate the kind of at a national governmental level, is design and design thinking on public service design. So as I see, just in the last 2 weeks, these design principles that Chris mentioned are starting to be considered as similar in places like the UK and America, where things that are designed, public services design, need to consider the user upfront, and that nothing is developed without first going through a kind of design thinking process. So that's kind of the process that we build on here, design thinking process. So this is the team of engineers and designers and some design students. We were lucky with our deep collaborations with NCAD and also with the Spark Innovation Programme in particular, to have Ireland's first designer in a public hospital employed here last year, who still works with us on these designs. And that's been really key in order to have that resource, which can then marry up with the public service innovation funding that was provided to have the tools to be able to develop these things. So collaboration, as Chris mentioned, has been really key for us. So it's not possible for us to just do this by ourselves. So we need to take in the expertise from the design community in NCAD and in Ruth, and in the innovation drive from the Spark Innovation Programme, and with our colleagues in Trinity College Dublin and Department of Public Expenditure Reform. So you might ask, why do we do this? So what we've noticed over the years from our interaction with clinical colleagues is there's lots and lots of untapped ideas out there in the public service that could be used for the betterment of the general public. And so we run an event called Design Week every year, where we just gather in those ideas and try and surface them. And that process essentially provides a mechanism for staff to be able to bring their ideas forward to have them develop. So we've been doing that for over the past 8 years. So where we put out a call for people to submit ideas. The ideas come from right around all different disciplines in the hospital. So there's real interest in a design and innovation kind of space for all different disciplines that want to contribute. They look at things like a better drip stand, or how do we improve how we hoist patients, or to keep patients propped up in bed, things like that. And the designers then from NCAD and engineers from Trinity come in and work with us to imagine and develop up those products over a design sprint over a single week. So the winner this year, just for context, was a maxillofacial surgical registrar who has ideas for developing a medical device which essentially improves facial surgery outcomes for patients. And we're working with designers and with the clinical staff on that at the moment. So with Design Week, we get to surface those ideas, but that's over a single week. But what we really need is to be able to scale that. And so that's where the local development work with our collaborators, in particular from the Public Service Innovation Fund, has allowed us to be able to do that on site. Working with industries is important as well, but it can be really a time-consuming and costly process not to be able to test and de-risk some of the ideas that you have on site. So that was the Public Service Innovation Fund in 2021 provided funding for us to be able to design this space in the MISA building. So it's Mercer's Institute for Successful Aging in James's is where we're based. And these are some of the kind of hand tools and things that we were able to procure, as well as a lot of the bigger machines. And in order for us to know what was needed, so we needed to work closely with our collaborators in NCAD to see what kind of things do designers need in order to develop kind of rapid prototypes. So things like laser cutting and 3D printing and things like that, and vacuum form we'll be able to bring in to be able to rapidly prototype things, which is a key part of design thinking as well. And fundamentally then as well, with the design space that the fund supported, we were able to bring in the clinical staff to design things with us in that space in the hospital, so they don't have to leave their clinical kind of front line for too long. So with the Innovation Fund in 2022, with the design space kind of then ready to go, we look to develop on 2 lean healthcare trolleys, one in ICU and one in endoscopy. And kind of following on from what Caitlin mentioned, because of the potential IP that we're looking to develop out of some of the ideas that we're working on, we can't show the specific designs other than just to say, I suppose, that they would improve, kind of look to improve patient experience in terms of how long they might be in a procedure, in an endoscopy situation, and kind of save in terms of waste that's been implemented in terms of recleaning endoscopes and the life cycle of those endoscopes. But just to kind of give you some physical context of kind of the work we do, and there's a video that I want to show that'll run. There was a project that had run during Innovation Week, which we hope to get this video out for, but we were just it's just going to be shown today. So on the 28th of October, so the final day of Innovation Week, there was a kind of an area masterclass, and Jack Collins was coordinating this across the country in different sites. And part of that was happening in James as well, where doctors were coming in anaesthetists were coming in to practice emergency airway procedures. And he had tasked us about 3 weeks ago with creating this emergency airway simulator, because he had a shortage of about 4 or 5 of them, and he wanted us to make a few of these. And he also wanted to make it a bit more realistic to the process that he was familiar with, having seen these procedures. So Dura Mullen, who's a product design intern from NCAD, spent just 2 weeks. It's an amazing amount of work he got done 2 weeks, and using all the tools that have been facilitated with the lab, and also with tools down in NCAD for some of the larger machines, was able to get something together. So and was able to use this on the 28th as part of that training. So so that's the end of the slides. I think, Owen, you're going to put on a video now. Okay, so that's just to give you a sense of the activity as possible, and it allows for those trainees to be able to practice procedure that's fairly rare, that they need to be kind of ready for. So I'll hand you back over. Thank you.
Thanks very much for that, Chris. Just one or two comments in the chat. Yeah, so today's session is being recorded. It'll be made available afterwards, and with the presenter's permission, we'll make sure the slides are available as well on our website. And apologies if anyone couldn't hear or see that the recording there. Again, with Chris' permission, we'll make sure that we can get a copy out to attendees afterwards as well. Thanks very much for that, Chris. So next, we're going to hand over to Ruth Penney, who's going to give us a little bit of an oversight into her 3 successful projects from the court service and how she approached the funding process as well. So Ruth, I'll give you presenter rights now.
Great, thank you.
No problem. And when you're ready.
Thank you. Okay. So can you see my slides okay?
Yeah, perfect.
Yeah, great, thank you. Just let me get set up and I'll be... Okay, thank you very much. Sorry, just 1 second, I'm just having a problem with my slide here. Now, I think that should be working okay.
Yeah, we can see your opening slide anyway, Ruth.
Okay, great. Thanks for that. Sorry for the delay. So my name is Ruth Penney. I work in the Change Programme Office of the Court Service. I've been involved in innovation for a number of years, formerly as an innovation advocate, and I took up the role of innovation lead in March this year. And I'm here today to talk to you about our experience of the Public Service Innovation Fund. So in the Court Service, we've been very fortunate to have benefited from 3 great projects thanks to the fund. And to begin, I'm going to briefly just tell you about our projects. So our first successful project was our child distraction project. So we had a staff member who worked in family law who submitted this idea. She'd observed how at times parents, often in quite distressed states, came to the office with young children. You know, they might often meet victims of domestic violence, and it could be a difficult situation. They noticed it was difficult for them to talk to a staff member. And thanks to a successful application to the inaugural Public Service Fund in 2019, we received €10,000 and a child distraction area where children could play safely were installed. And this was allowed the parent to focus on the matters at hand. So this was a part of an initiative which began in Dolphin House in Dublin, and this was to enhance both communication and service efficiency for court users. So it was a simple idea, but a very effective idea, and has since been rolled out to other family law offices around the country. In 2021, we were successful with their application to become a JAM-friendly organisation. So the JAM card allows people with a learning difficulty or communication barrier to tell others they need just a minute discreetly and easily. So this idea originated from our call for ideas. So in the court service, we're lucky that we have a dedicated innovation unit. We also have innovation advocates that are based all around the country, and we have a pathway for ideas. So this idea came through one of those call outs for ideas. When a colleague saw a JAM card in use in a university in Northern Ireland. So everybody agreed at that time that the JAM card was an excellent idea, but we're undergoing a modernisation programme at the minute in the court service. So with a lot on, it was difficult to get it over the line or to find a sponsor for it. It definitely ticked a lot of the boxes with the deeper the fund guidelines that Chris spoke about there earlier, in that it was user-centric, it's scalable. It was also cross-border collaboration, as the JAM card is operated by the Now Group, and the Now Group are based in Northern Ireland. So the Public Service Innovation Fund for us was a fantastic way to get this idea over the line and get it before our senior management team. So we submitted a joint application with our justice partners, and we were awarded €25,000 to roll this out. And this was rolled out across 3 organisations, including ourselves, the Irish Prison Service and the Dublin Coroner's Court. So our current project in the 2022 fund is the 360 What to Expect virtual tour. And this project aims to address or alleviate fears of citizens attending court and provide information on where to go and where to sit while in the courtroom. And this is a direct response to our users saying that going to court was intimidating and difficult to navigate. It allows users to experience the court environment in advance of attending. Now I'm going to try to bring up a preview, but please bear with me. And if I fail, I'll just jump back on and talk to it. I'm not sure. Can you see this?
Perfect.
You can see it?
Go ahead.
Great. Okay, great. Thank you. So this is our 360 tour. This is our 4 courts complex in Dublin. This is only a preview. We're just finalizing the finished tour. It's going to bring a user right in through the security process, let them see the buildings in advance. It'll bring you into the building and allow you navigate the halls, show you the way to the office. We're going to have some useful information points as you go through the building, just to find more information. I suppose just for the sake of time, I'm just going to jump into court 4 here just to give you an idea of what we were hoping to do. So really, I suppose, you know, at times in the court service, we've encountered users coming in who are quite nervous coming to court for the first time. And we felt this might be a useful way. You know, you can click out, you'll see where the exit is, which is always important. You can click here, you can see some highlighted benches here, and you'll click there and get some more information on what exactly that is. You can click to understand the roles of other people that are in the courtroom and just where they're going to sit. Now, again, this is just the preview, so this will also be available in Irish and will also be available in audio, just for further accessibility. You can click on, say, the judge's bench here, and we will see Judge Butler will come up, and she will explain her role in the courtroom and just further information. So I'm just going to jump out of that one now, and hopefully this is going to work for me. Okay. Can you see my presentation again?
Yeah, that's perfect, Ruth.
Okay, great. Okay, thank you. So this is the public service. I suppose, yeah, I just want to talk today about how we ask our staff to apply for the Public Service Innovation Fund. We have a internal process. We have during, I suppose Chris talked earlier there about the Word document. That was very important to us, actually, because what we do is that we would send out an email to all staff all across the organisation. And we had a little launch last week of a showcase of our 360 tour.
Sorry, Ruth, if you just want to put up your slides there, I think we might just still be in the old screen. Apologies if you just want to
okay,
flip your
yeah.
screen.
Sorry, apologies there now.
Take your time.
Okay. Am I back on track?
Not quite. I think we can just. Oh, there we go. Perfect. Yeah. Take it away.
Okay. Thank you. Okay. Thank you. Yeah. The Word document was important to us because it was an opportunity for somebody to complete it before it's submitted to the electronic form to Deeper. So we circulate the Word version of the Deeper application form across the whole of organisation. So the application is available to staff at all levels to complete and submit to the innovation team through their principal officer. We also have a slot booked at a meeting of our senior management team in early December. That's where we will present any applications we receive for consideration, and the applications will be presented to the SMT then. Any approved applications by the SMT will be submitted on the electronic form to Deeper for consideration. We also use our innovation advocates who are spread across the country to spread the word and to encourage colleagues to put some ideas forward. I suppose in advance of today, I spoke to colleagues who were involved in previous applications. So Pauline Redmond, my predecessor in particular, and our civil reform team, who were very involved in the 360 tour. So, you know, discussing, we've certainly learned over the years with our applications. We've had other applications that were not successful, but good learning curves from that as well. We feel that you really need to be able to explain the problems your projects will solve in your application. To understand this, you need to, I suppose you really need to know your user pain points. An example of this for our 360 tour, the civil reform team took a service design approach and gathered insights from court users. They heard things like, I can't find my courtroom, how do I file forms and pay fees, I don't know what to expect or understand the process. So after brainstorming, that's how the idea of the 360 virtual tour came up. And as Chris said earlier, really, I suppose for the application, for strong application, would be good to talk about your impacts of your 360 tour. So, I mean, we have many impacts. I think it's going to have a good impact on the public as well as for staff induction. There's also education information, I think, that will also benefit people interested in that. So just a couple of tips, I suppose, really, in if you're completing your application, to be clear on your project plan and your timeline. So the Public Service Innovation Fund definitely speeds up delivery. Chris showed the timeline there. So I suppose you need to make sure that you can get it done within that time frame. Your application should be evidence-based, clearly showing what evidence will be used before the project commences to assess the as-is, and identify how success will be measured. You need to be clear on the problems you are trying to address and the impact of your project, just like I discussed there with the 360 example. You should also look at the categories under the Public Service Innovation Fund to ensure your project is suitable. One of the important things for us, for sure, I think, is the senior management buy-in. Our senior management team are very supportive. The Public Service Fund is on their radar. It's in their calendar for the annual meetings. So and there's great support. I suppose with a lot of other work going on in across organizations, it's also often difficult to get an idea, I suppose, to the senior management team and get it on their radar. But the Public Service Innovation Fund is a fantastic opportunity to be able to do that. The other thing I suppose I'd like to say is, to get support, you're not on your own. I suppose the application looks daunting, but there's great support out there, definitely from other public service colleagues and from the Public Service Innovation Fund team. We often find that after attending, events like today or, other the innovation conferences, that after talking to colleagues, we will be inspired by hearing ideas that are going on in other organisations. Collaborative applications are great. We did that with the Jam Card, and there's support alone in that. And just to say that the Public Service Innovation Fund team are very supportive. Chris and Owen are always there when we have a query, and great to put you in touch with other organisations. They might have some insights. We had one little stumbling block with our 360 tour, and they put us in touch with Carmel and her team in Monaghan County Council. That was, a great help, just to be able to tease out, as they had an experience of using 360 cameras in their area. I think that is everything I want to share with you. So thanks for your attention today, and happy to answer any questions, or feel free to reach out to me on innovations@courts.ie. Thank you.
That's brilliant. Thank you very much for that, Ruth and Chris. Yeah, you're all good. I think those presentations show the sheer variety and kind of breadth of innovation public service. Your idea doesn't have to closely mirror any of these ideas to be innovative and to receive funding. So please do get in touch if you think you have an idea that you want to carry through to application.
I've been losing that, Ruth.
Yeah. We might have just lost Ruth, but keep an eye out for it though. Anyway, look, I know we've gone over anyway, so we'll just, if we have time for a few questions, again, as I said, this is being recorded anyway. So if you have to leave, the recording will be made available a little later on. So, Chris, we had a question in there. Let me just get to the side. Yeah. Was there a reason to reproduce this rather than purchase the commercially available task trainer?
So that's to do with the video.
The video.
Yeah. So one of the things, I suppose, we were approached 3 weeks ago with the challenge that they needed to have this ready in kind of a week and a half to kind of get around. So they'd looked at some of the commercially available ones, and something like what they were looking to achieve would have cost about €1,000 each or something like that. So there was value for money in building it in-house. Now, you probably wouldn't look to do that every time, but one of the key aspects that the Airway fellow was looking to do as well was to create a bit more of a realistic thing from his experience. So he was building his expertise into the design as well. So it wasn't just about pulling one off the shelf. So in particular, he kind of mentioned the sternal notch, I'm not actually sure what the name of it is, just above your rib cage, that was really evident in the vacuum form, and he kind of liked that kind of show of anatomy to be able to help somebody to feel where the Adam's apple was, say, in a manner where to puncture. So there were, some of it was that he wanted to develop something different, and also the timeliness of it, needing to do it. And also what we're looking to do next as well is to explore different types of silicon-based skin that we might be able to produce to give different senses of kind of cutting tension. So we did actually buy different skin, purchase different skin from a supplier, and when they tried that, they felt that it just didn't feel realistic at all. And so we kind of moved to another one and just showed that there are things out there that just still aren't giving the kind of the experience that they needed as trainees. So I hope that answers the question.
Yeah, thank you very much for that. So look, the offering was available exactly how you needed it, so you need to go out and create it yourself effectively anyway. Yeah, thank you very much for that. So look, guys, I'm just going to dive into a few questions that you might be able to answer just based on your own experience with the funding cycle. There's loads we could offer. We have a good few questions coming in, so I'm going to try and pluck kind of a few that might be applicable to as many as possible. So look, both of your organizations seem to really appreciate innovation at all ranks. Both of you kind of particular units dedicated to harnessing innovation. So how do you find a good innovative idea in your own organization? So I'm going to throw that out to both of you, whoever would like to take it, or both of you can answer if you'd like.
Ruth, I don't mind.
Yeah, Ruth, then yeah, perfect. Ruth, if
Okay,
you'd like
yeah,
to go ahead.
thanks, Chris. Yeah, I suppose for us, I suppose we're very lucky to have the dedicated innovation unit, and we have a network of innovation advocates, I suppose across the organisation. They're there listening to, frontline staff at times are best placed to come up with ideas and see the problems at hand. So we saw that, say, for child distractions, it was a good example of that, and I suppose having those supports out there and the mechanism, I suppose, to get the ideas in. We have a pathway for ideas that's available for all staff as well to submit ideas throughout the year. So, having those that in place really can help get those ideas in, and just having the research done in advance of that.
That's great. Chris, would you like to answer anything on that yourself?
Yeah, so I think I spoke to it a bit in the presentation. So we have a dedicated kind of design sprint week, which is kind of an annual gathering in harvest of ideas, and we tend to get about 60 or 70 a year that we have to shortlist down to about 7 or so that we run. So that kind of shortlisting process is done by a panel at the hospital, and that's kind of how we determine what we should or shouldn't go through. And just kind of to follow up on the previous point, because it brings it in here, so we tend to try and go with ideas that are novel and that haven't been produced and aren't available to purchase on the market, because that's not a good way to spend your time. But yeah, so it tends to be to look at things that would have the biggest impact, and as well as that, it's to look at the innovator as well and see are they kind of driven and motivated, and do they really want it, so that can be part of it as well.
Yeah, I like the fact that like both organizations have senior management buy-in as well. And I think there was a question about who has to approve the application. Knowing both organizations, they're very senior figures within their innovation space. So they automatically get that senior buy-in. That's key. And I know, and if anyone's asked, they that's in the guidelines as well. Who would actually sign off on these applications? But I know CEO of the core services is pretty much bought into this whole process, and is, as Ruth mentioned, is involved and has it in their calendar. When it's coming up. The Defence Forces are very good as well. They have an innovation awards that they do annually as well, and the best projects are put forward then for like these funding calls as well. So again, what they do is they harness that collective of ideas and collective working on an application as well, and that pays dividends when submitting as well.
Yeah, just to create that space. I think two organizations say are exemplars of that anyway. Another question we kind of that might be of interest, kind of what you two particularly can offer as multiple recipients. Chris, maybe to speak this a little bit more. I know Ruth coming into the role for March, but I'm sure your predecessors have given you a good handover. What kind of advice, or how did you pivot your second or third application from your second based on the learnings you would have from earlier on the process? So kind of coming around to funding for the second round, what did you do differently this time?
Oh, sorry, so from the first to the second, yeah.
Exactly.
Yeah. So the first round was a little different in that it was creating a space. So it was about making sure you had the right tools and that kind of thing. But do you mean in the particular application process itself? Is it? Yeah. So well, in
Yeah.
the particular application process, there was more of a focus because we were looking to actually build something that we put into use. There was a big focus on kind of impact and metrics. So we were fortunate with the endoscopy project that we had run a pilot previous to this, and that we were able to use that data to say this is going to be the waste savings, this is going to be the cost saving, this is going to be the time that the reduced time that it's going to take for people to do this, and this is going to free up procedure time potentially. So being able to bring that data in was a key aspect the second time around, which was a bit different than the first one because it was creation of a space and developing the culture of innovation. So I think that was a key kind of a pivot in terms of bringing in the impacts.
Yeah, Ruth, do you have anything you'd like to add? Now, I know, as they said, March, kind of your first kind of full iteration of it, but yeah.
Yeah, no, I suppose just we had, I suppose, had 3 successful now, and I think we've learned kind of year on year. We've had an unsuccessful application last year, and we got some feedback which was very useful just around, it wasn't clear on our costings and that. So that's something that we'll take forward into other projects. So it's really just reading the guidelines and make sure that we meet the criteria, and I suppose providing as much of that information and having the evidence there in the application as possible.
Thanks very much, both of you, for that. Kind of another area kind of then is kind of the issue of challenges. And I know, Ruth, you kind of mentioned a little bit earlier when you reached out to Monaghan County Council to kind of get over that hurdle. Can you both kind of name one challenge you faced in the completion of your projects and how you got around it? So Ruth, if you'd like to tell us a little bit more kind of about that stumble you came across at Monaghan County Council, and then Chris, if you have anything to add to yourself.
Yeah, I suppose we had one challenge, I suppose, in that given the time frames, we just hit a little problem with resources and timing and that. So we had to look at our project again and just to see how we'd get there and meet the deadline. So I reached out to yourselves, and in fairness, you put us in touch with Carmel and her team in Monaghan County Council. They had some experience with using 360 cameras. So just even to be able to go and chat to them, I suppose, was a good way to put us back on track, I suppose, and get us off in the right direction. So just great to have that support and know that you can talk to people and talk to yourselves again if you do hit the challenges.
Yeah, so one of the particular challenges, one of the trolley designs, we had it at a stage where we were kind of ready to launch, and when we included a kind of a wider group to look at how to be put into use, we kind of came up against design changes that we hadn't been expecting. So that kind of really changed what way we were going to have to design the thing. So it set us back about 6 weeks where we had to make a lot of changes over that time and then bring it in and get it signed off. So that was a kind of a challenge of an unexpected thing during a time scale that's actually, well, it's already short, but you just kind of have to work with it. We were lucky that we had our collaborations with Spark, with the resources we have in terms of time, in addition to the space from DPAR. So that helped us to overcome that by not having to outsource some of those parts. Being able to do it in-house is really key to be responsive.
Just to add to that as well, and the guys are in the prep, and people that are in the online audience today, they were aware of the reporting metrics that we use in terms of how the teams report back at the end of their fund cycle or halfway through, and there is a key focus on those lessons there. And what we are actually doing is that we want as much detail as possible, because what we can do is we can actually put them all together, find out the key ones that are common trends for a lot of them. So, for example, the public procurement one was an issue. If you're doing an app solution or developing a tech solution, is your member of your ICT team on the evaluation panel, or are they aware that is this solution going to be compatible with what they have and that kind of stuff? So I know that's one key lesson that we definitely share with people when they're looking at that. But both project teams here and many others that are online, is when they do come across a problem, it's important that they come to us, that they have that conversation with us, because I think I said to both organizations at the start of this fund cycle was, what you wrote in your application will not be exactly what you get at the end, because there's going to be ideation, there's going to be changes, there's going to be challenges, and there's going to be all that kind of stuff. So again, it's always key to have that conversation, and we're going to listen, and we're going to support as best we can as well. And I think great that Ruth mentioned her challenge, because again, we were able to develop that link straight away and have that conversation, which was great as well.
Yeah, and that's the benefit of kind of growing the fund year on year, is that you have the wealth of knowledge and experience that the likes of like Ruth would have an exemplar that she could go to kind of discuss an issue, and that you would be able to kind of see it from this kind of perspective over here, who's doing what and what issues they face as well. So the more detail we get back, again, it serves the interests of future applicants even better. So that absolutely, definitely.
And just to link Caitlin in, because I know she's there, but like again, the issue of IP came up. We would have redirected people to Chris, because again, I knew from having a conversation with Chris and meeting Chris, he had experience in IP. But now everyone's gone to Caitlin. So
With pleasure.
Thanks, Caitlin.
No problem.
but as I said, it's that information sharing, it's that networking, it's that collaboration, that partnership. We as a granting support, we're actually a partner as well. We work with the project teams as best we can as well.
Yep.
So sorry for
No, that's all. Look, in the interest of time, we'll kind of just come to the last few anyway. What would you tell? I think probably year on year we get kind of a lot of new applicants as well. It's great to see returning ones, but seeing new ones coming through shows the fund is growing anyway. What would you tell kind of new applicants that you wish you knew yourself before even starting this process way back when? So Chris, if you'd like to take that first, maybe.
Yeah, I suppose it mightn't be obvious. I know you both have tried to say it, but just how contactable you are on the team for being able to ask questions. Like usually, if I ring one of you, usually ring Chris, and it's usually the call is either answered or rings back within 2 minutes. So it's a different kind of service that people might be used to in terms of applying for grants and having to send emails and waiting for a long time. I think the difference with this fund is that if you want to know something, probably the best way is to pick up the phone and ask. Sorry, I don't mean to send loads of calls your way, Chris, but I think that's tends to be the quickest way to get an answer. So just the approachability to not be afraid to pick up the phone and talk things through, and it's not going to be, oh well, you said this, so it's not going to work. It's to kind of bring you through the process. So that kind of interaction with the team, I think, is important.
That's great. And Ruth, if you'd like to add anything there yourself.
Yeah, no, just to echo, I think really what Chris has said there, that support is just invaluable, really, because, you know, we're used to, I suppose, projects, you know, having a kind of a longer time cycle and that. So these projects, you know, they have the deadlines and we need to get there. So as Chris was saying, you know, if you send out an email and you're waiting for a response, that can slow down everything. So to be able to, you know, that the fact that you're approachable and that we can make those quick contacts and, you know, solve a problem fairly fast and move on is great.
Yeah, look, and Caitlin, even on your side, would you have anything kind of to add in that respect to, kind of unsure kind of about the area of IP2?
As in what they should do at just starting out in the process.
Yeah, exactly.
The very first thing is reach out to us. We're very customer focused. We've got a huge communications and outreach strategy that we've planned for this year going on into the future. We're crying out for people to call us, email us. We've got a public office. We are so happy to help with any query. And no matter how small you think it is, it could be something that's actually stopping you filing an IP right. So we're more than happy to help. So yeah, that's it. We like to think that we're approachable, and we want to encourage people to file any queries with us, and we're always happy to help people with the IP process. We've developed all of the online e-filing, so it means that you can look at the filing process, you can go away, you can, you know, formulate questions for us, you can come to the office, you can ask us the questions, and we're even happy to help you through the process. So we're trying to make it as user-friendly and as user-intuitive as possible.
Yeah, I was just asking on. I wonder what Caitlin, being in today's webinar, what do you think of the fund?
I was going to say it's something that I actually wasn't aware of, and because we are the Intellectual Property Office, you would think that we would have a lot of innovative ideas that we would actually like to apply for the fund ourselves. So you might see a couple of applications coming in from our office as well. I know there's a few projects that we've done in the past that could certainly fit into you know, a funding application. So you might be seeing more of us than you expect into the future.
Well, just to add on that, like we do have a dedicated funding page on ops.gov.ie. A question came in about previous projects. There is a list of all the projects we supported to date. It gives a brief synopsis on the project and the impact that they're trying to achieve. Hopefully, we'll have a few desktop publications of the successful projects. I'd like to reiterate what Ruth said, that we've been trying to give as much feedback to applicants that aren't successful. However, we don't have a database that's available to the public audience in that sense, but we do have all that information filed. But again, what we do feel is that if you do put in an application and it is successful, well, we should be able to give you some kind of feedback as to why, and again help with your journey, and not being a roadblock where then someone stops being innovative because they got to know and that kind of thing, and not told why. So we will try our best in that sense as well.
Yeah. And then in the interest of time, guys, thank you very much. Anyway, I might just ask you both, if you kind of came across a public service colleague from across the public service and they had an idea, but they were hesitant in applying for the fund, what would you tell them? Ruth, if you want to go first there.
Yeah, just absolutely go for it. I mean, just put in the application. You know, it's a fantastic opportunity. It's really good for some, say, niche projects that you can get delivered within the time frame. So I would absolutely recommend it.
Yeah, just to add to that, I think.
And Chris there.
Yeah, can you hear me okay? Yeah. So just one of the things to add on to it would be you know, there's something to be gained for actually applying as well. It kind of can upskill a person in terms of understanding what's possible, and you get the feedback, and it changes the way you look at challenges and problems and think that they could actually be addressed. So part of that, I think, can be looking at the previous projects is really useful. It's been really useful to see what kind of things were they addressing. And so that can maybe provide some inspiration to somebody who's not sure whether to apply or not, to look at those and go, well, mine is actually fairly similar to that, or I could kind of achieve that as well. So yeah, kind of, as you said, just go for it and kind of build on that experience. Even if it's not a success, it's still kind of furthering a person's kind of outlook on innovation and ability to look at things in the future and further future funding.
Well, look, thank you very much to all of you for joining us today. Kind of the experiences of both Chris and Ruth are extremely valuable. And as I said at the start, we can offer only so much based on our own perspective, but the lived-in experience of the fund from past iterations, and your success is very valuable to today. Equally, thank you very much to Caitlin for joining us from the IPOU. It's really, again, valuable to get insight in this area. It's an area that keeps coming up over and over again. So to have somebody come today to kind of tell us at least the basics of what IP is and how it should form kind of the basis of your application is truly very valuable. And a special thank you to Siri, who likes to pop up as a surprise last-minute panelist today. So again, the funding deadline is Friday, December 16th. If you have any questions whatsoever, please do not hesitate to get in contact with us at innovation@per.gov.ie. Chris is Fund and Strategy Manager, and myself and Comms are happy to support in any which way we can. So look, we look forward to seeing all your applications, and until then, take care. Thank you very much, guys.
Thank you.
Thanks very much. Take care.
Bye.